yesterday game was horrendous, bro. I mean, it was bad. I mean, this one might be one for the ages, bro. I can't even lie. The referees just exposed their hand so bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the cause was. They didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what went down, bro. I mean, they got their issue off in a major way, bro. I mean, there was countless of times I could literally look at the screen and know that was...
What if I told you the real MVP of the WNBA isn't a player, but a referee with a personal vendetta and a whistle hotter than a jalapeno? Buckle up, because we just uncovered footage so wild it makes reality TV look like a church service. Caitlin Clark didn't just get fouled, she got straight up robbed. And the receipts. They're messier than a toddler on spaghetti night. You won't believe what this ref did, and yes, it's all on camera. Let's dive right in.
So lads, today the referees gave the report on the situation, and it's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim. Like, it was a pretty grim overall, it was a pretty grim overall.
Watching the WNBA and seeing how things are run, seeing how things are done, and after you've seen what it looks like to get it right, and you come in and see something looking really wrong, you're going to call it out. It is what it is. You're going to be critical of players. If they do something shady or classless, you're going to call them.
And the whistle blows again. Not for a foul, not for a travel, but apparently for the crime of existing while being Caitlin Clark. Because let's be honest, at this point, it's not basketball. It's a badly scripted soap opera with referees moonlighting as cartoon villains. Between the missed calls, phantom fouls, and the classic oops, I guess I didn't see that punch to the face. WNBA referees have officially transformed from game officials into chaos. Gremlins armed with whistles.
Share with you guys an article that I found that honestly gives us so much insight into the WNBA referees, how they are hired, how much they make. And there's one section that really stood out to me, and they break down essentially why they are making the calls that they make. And they also talk about the influx of new fans flooding to the WNBA. They talk about Caitlin Clark a little bit. This article to me was really telling. It actually came out in January, but it was published by SB Nation, and it's entitled How WNBA Referees Are Scouted, Trained, and Held Accountable.
The audience isn't confused anymore. They're exhausted. This isn't suspense. It's sabotage in slow motion. Crooked referees aren't just ruining games. They're draining the joy from a league that's supposed to be gaining momentum. Fans tune in hoping for competitive action, not refled improv theater. It's like watching a cooking show where the judges randomly unplug the oven mid-bake, then blame the contestant. And Caitlin Clark. She's the contestant getting sabotaged, smiling politely while her 3-tier cake melts into floor soup.
You would think with what they say coming into the season, Kathy made it her business to let them know that, referees is going to be getting assessed for this next season to make sure they're making the right, proper calls. Man, at this point, we need NBA refs all the time, bro. I don't want these YMCA, junior league, high school ass referees, bro. We need real life refs, because as of right now, they're costing the Indiana Fever major games that they definitely need.
Let's be real, Caitlin looks tired. And not in the played 40 minutes, dropped 30 points kind of way. No, this is that deep, existential exhaustion that comes from realizing you could drop 60 and someone would still call a charge because you blinked too hard. This woman is carrying a franchise, a league, and half of women's basketball fandom on her back, and the refs. They're out here making sure her shoelaces are tied together on every possession.
Remember how last year started? You remember the lopsided officiating that we got last year? The All-Star break comes around, the Olympic break rolls around, and then what did we hear from Lynn Dunn? Lynn Dunn goes on the Dan Dockage show, and she calls out the officiating. She calls out the refereeing. She calls out the WNBA. The lopsidedness that is being shown not in favor of the Indiana Fever. The clear biases when it comes to foul calls, the clear biases when it comes to not calling foul calls. Last year, it took us
3 hours, 5 minutes, and 42 seconds. Of course she's depressed. Wouldn't you be? Imagine being world class at your job, showing up every night to work miracles, only to realize your biggest opponent isn't even wearing the other team's jersey, it's the Zebras with whistles. These refs somehow manage to overlook actual assaults, but flag her for basic movement, like she's violating some secret NBA anti-glop rule. The way she's being treated isn't just wrong, it's cartoonishly wrong. It's Caitlyn accidentally stepped into a dimension where logic doesn't exist. Wrong. And as for Coach Stephanie White, she didn't just lose her cool, she donated it to science. She looked like she was auditioning for a reboot of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Except every prompt was react to yet another insultingly bad call. She was pacing, yelling, turning progressively redder like a human thermometer of injustice. It wasn't coaching. It was a live demonstration of gaslighting in real time. The refs weren't even pretending to be fair. They were just out there, freestyling their own rules like it was jazz night at the officiating club.
A bit holistically, I think Caitlin Clark is a really hard player to officiate, much like Diana Taurasi was throughout the course of her career, for a couple of reasons. Caitlin Clark regularly gets picked up in the full court. She also gets blitzed more over the course of her career than any player in WNBA history, or in that period of time. And she also creates some contact herself on the offensive end of the floor. She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA, and all of them said it needs...
There's no other way to say it. Caitlyn Clark is being treated like she committed a crime against basketball, when all she did was make it popular again. The WNBA wanted visibility. Great. Congrats, you've got it. And now the referees are squinting into the spotlight like vampires caught in the sun, panicking under the weight of actual attention. They didn't expect fans. They didn't expect replays. And they certainly didn't expect anyone to start asking questions. Now, every bad call is a meme in 5 seconds flat. Twitter's got slow-mo breakdowns of every flop denial, and logic-defying whistle. And somehow, it just keeps escalating. Caitlyn goes for a fast break. Bam, whistle. She makes a clean steal. Whoops, violation. She breathes too aggressively in the key. Technical foul. Meanwhile, the other team is reenacting a UFC promo and getting nothing but hype. It's like the referees got confused and thought the WNBA was a choose-your-own-adventure book, except no matter what page you turn to, Caitlyn ends up in detention. And it's not just about bad calls. It's the psychological warfare of it all. This rookie is playing with the composure of a veteran, all while carrying a target on her back the size of Iowa.
That the officiating in the WNBA became as hot button of an issue as any. Heated debates surrounding the league's physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls. Now, they also brought up Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. We actually made a whole video about that as well because there were some suspect calls at the end of that game, and a lot of people felt like the WNBA Finals were actually...
Every time Caitlyn gets up, someone's there to push her back down, sometimes literally. Meanwhile, Coach Stephanie White's sideline performances are becoming more legendary than the games themselves. She's basically the unofficial voice of reason. If reason came with red-faced yelling and clipboard-throwing intensity, you can practically hear her inner monologue screaming, "Are you serious?" every 2 minutes. She's protesting so passionately, it's a miracle she hasn't been micked up and given her own post-game therapy show. And can you blame her? Watching your star player get hacked like an Amazon password without a single whistle would make anyone snap. But instead of celebrating Caitlyn, we're dissecting slow-motion clips of her getting blindsided while the refs do their best impression of a statue. It's surreal. Like, are we in a parody universe where talent gets punished and mediocrity earns a standing ovation?
It took us 4 games for Stephanie White to say, "I've had enough." It's taken 4 games for Stephanie White to say, "You know what? I've had absolute enough. Game 1, okay. Game 2, okay. Game 3, all right." But today was the last straw when it came for Stephanie White. The New York Liberty get to the free throw line 32 times. The Indiana Fever this season have a discrepancy -31 when it comes to free throws. That doesn't seem...
Because that's exactly how it feels. Fans are noticing the stands are louder, the boos are longer, and the internet is absolutely foaming at the mouth with receipts. No one's buying the just part of the game excuse anymore. If anything, the game looks rigged by a group of interns on a caffeine bender who think consistency is optional. And if that sounds harsh, good, it should be. This isn't just about Caitlyn. It's about what happens when you inject real star power into a system that wasn't built to handle it. The referees are clinging to their power like it's the last slice of pizza, blowing calls with the confidence of people who've never had their decisions reviewed in HD by 5 million viewers. Caitlyn's offense playing too well. Their response: make it harder for her. And if something doesn't change soon, the final act won't end in applause, it'll end with the crowd walking out, wondering why they ever believed in the script. And just when you thought the refereeing couldn't possibly get any more bonkers, bam, they cranked the circus style straight to 11. These refs weren't just bad, they were Olympic level bad. Like, did you borrow your rulebook from a coloring book? Bad.
That happened. Why was JC Sheldon's foul upgrade to flagrant one? In the judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. The contact to Clark's face. Furthermore, there was a wind-up and impact, and the contact to face carries potential for injury. How did you come to the conclusion that that is a flagrant one? How did you come up to the conclusion that it was unnecessary? There was a wind-up, and it was to the face. The three of them that is a flagrant 2. By definition, you've described it.
At one point, it genuinely felt like the officials were pulling fouls out of a hat labeled random nonsense, while actively ignoring everything happening to Caitlin Clark and her teammates. Blatant contact, nothing closelining, just good. Hustle a full WWE suplex in the paint. Apparently, that's just excellent defense. Now, it's not a conspiracy yet, but if a few more games look like this, we might need to start checking their earpiece. Because how else do you explain this pattern of willful blindness from people who are literally paid to watch things happen? It's like the referees made a blood pact to never see Caitlin Clark get fouled, no matter how many times she gets flattened. Like a pancake on national television. At this point, crash test dummies are getting more sympathy. You start to wonder if there's a secret meeting happening behind closed doors at WNBA HQ. You know, one of those dimly lit smoke-free rooms where executives in blazers huddle around PowerPoints titled, "How to Slow Down Caitlin Clark Without Looking Too Obvious." And the referees, just loyal foot soldiers carrying out the mission. Sabotage under the veil of officiating. It's starting to feel like the league wants this team to struggle, like they're allergic to momentum. Because every time Caitlin gets into rhythm, here come the refs with their, "Whoops, that looked like a good play, better ruin it" energy.
NBA refs are the worst. They really are the worst.
We got to unpaint these narratives. They all have heart. All the mannerisms in basketball are the same. This is going to be the same. Doesn't matter your color, your race, or your religion. That means I shot in your face. This means I'm clapping, I'm excited. How do you make basketball mannerisms about race? Make it make sense. Sometimes we might even push the ref. I'm in the heat of the moment. I'm not a bad person.
Wait, hold up, wait. You be pushing refs, Angel?
Well, I ain't never pushed them, but I've gotten in their face. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, you know.
Even when you watch the MNBA, I would pray for, and Scott Foster sucks, but I would pray for a Scott Foster in the WNBA. Some of these women's refs, I don't know if you feel this way, Angel, but they have.
Meanwhile, players on other teams are out here breakdancing on defense and getting rewarded with free throws. It's a clown show, and everyone's in on the joke except the people actually trying to play basketball. And while all this madness unfolds, guess who's nowhere to be found? The commissioner. That's right, the mythical figure known as the silent lady in charge. You'd get a faster response from a magic 8-ball than from her office. Players get hit, fans erupt, commentators rage and radio silence. You could scream into the void and get more feedback than her weekly press activity. Try finding a public comment from her. Go ahead. You'll have better luck spotting Bigfoot in a referee jersey. The only thing consistent about her leadership is how consistently absent it is. Days go by, scandals pile up, questionable calls dominate headlines, and she's apparently in a coma made of apathy and beige-colored emails. You'd think she was running the league from a treehouse with no Wi-Fi. Penalties take her longer than a sloth with a clipboard. Fines come only after a week-long nap and a vision quest. She reacts to basketball crises the way a tortoise reacts to a house fire, slow, confused, and somehow walking in the wrong direction.
I'll say it again, the WNBA as an organization is insufferable, and you would be hard-pressed to find another organization that is as committed to self-imploding as the WNBA.
There is no place in basketball for somebody to be poked in the eye, and then they're saying Caitlin Clark is flopping. In what world is she flopping? Oh, she flailed and she fell over. For crying out loud, that girl, JC Sheldon, should have been kicked out of the game. She should have received a flagrant 2. There's no reason why you need to poke somebody. Listen, I get it. She's playing her hard. She's guarding her. It's basketball. Aside from the viewership and the recordship and the media, it's just a basketball game. I totally get that. There's no place in basketball for like that. These WNBA refs.
At this point, you half expect the commissioner to show up at a press conference and ask, "Wait, which team does Caitlin play for?" That's how distant she feels from literally everything happening in her own league. And let's talk about this so-called leadership style, if you can even call it that. She's got the charisma of a parking meter and the urgency of a screensaver. No spine, no voice, no accountability. When coaches lose their minds over blatantly rigged officiating, when fans demand answers, when viral footage shows Caitlin Clark getting tackled while the refs polish their nails, what do we hear from the commissioner? Crickets, actual, live, crickets. Might as well start filing incident reports directly to nature. It's gotten so bad we've stopped expecting her to lead. Now we just hope she at least knows there's a season happening. Maybe she's waiting for a carrier pigeon to deliver game results. Maybe she's working on a 5-year plan that starts with Googling what is basketball. Or maybe just Maybe she's been given express orders not to rock the already wobbly WNBA boat, but let's call it what it is. She needs to be fired immediately, yesterday, preferably. Her job is to grow the league, protect the players, and uphold the integrity of the sport. Instead, she's like a bad extra in a courtroom drama, technically present, but always on the wrong page. How do you have Caitlin Clark, the biggest thing to hit women's basketball since sliced highlights, and your grand strategy is ... silence.
I said you lost control of the game, and here's what happened is those refs around allowed that type of play to happen. That just opens up the rest of the game to say, do you see what I got away with? I'm going to be able to get away with other things too. And that's exactly what I said. That's a dangerous game. That is a unsafe game for players to be a part of, because it allows for the other team to make some really nasty.
That's the leadership equivalent of putting Beyonce on hold. Meanwhile, the fans are losing it. The anger is real. Every game feels like a new chapter in the referee rebellion saga, and the commissioner's chair remains colder than a Minnesota winter. Coaches are doing damage control. Players are gritting through the bias, and fans are left screaming into their TV screens while the one person who should be answering questions is probably off somewhere, writing a memo titled, "How to Appear Invisible at Press Events." She's the human embodiment of the shrug emoji, and let's not ignore what that silence enables. By refusing to hold the referees accountable, by failing to even acknowledge the blatant bias, the league is sending a message. And that message is, Caitlin Clark, and by extension her team, are fair game. Get hacked. Too bad. Get elbowed. Play through it, get disrespected. Smile for the cameras and keep selling jerseys. Because the league doesn't want to protect her. It wants to use her fame, use her following, use her flair. But stand up for her. Speak out for her. Not a chance.
This year, there's also been increased scrutiny about the quality of refereeing. Curious if there has been any conversation about whether it's referee pay, referee training, anything to ensure that is as good as it can be.
Obviously, not every, they're humans, looking at technology. Basketball is a little more complex than tennis, for instance, around technology of officiating. So we're looking at a variety of different dimensions. I know it's a passionate issue. Every fan group, I love when I go into market and every fan group I meet with, they usually wait and ask it as the last question of the night, but they do ask about officiating.
Apparently, that's asking too much. And the longer this goes on, the more damage it does, not just to Caitlin Clark or her team, but to the league's credibility. People are watching. Fans are comparing notes. Clips are being analyzed frame by frame. This isn't 1998. Receipts are everywhere, and they're damning. If the league thinks it can gaslight an entire generation of basketball viewers, it's in for a brutal awakening. The audience knows exactly what they're seeing. They're not stupid. What the league needs is someone with a pulse, a Twitter account, and a calendar that doesn't skip entire weeks. Because if the WNBA wants to survive the wave of attention that Caitlin Clark has brought, it can't be led by someone who treats every controversy like an accidental butt dial. The players deserve better, the fans demand better, and Caitlin Clark, she is better.